Good morning, Riverside.
Good morning, Riverside.
We are here again after a little hiatus where we've been bopping around and running around. And we are here with someone that I've been trying to get to the table for a while. Our friend Stu, who's been a patron here for quite a while since we opened, just about. And Stu one day told me his story. And I said, if that is not a story. Well, yes. No, he goes around and tells everyone his story. That's what they tell me at the cleaners, at the Dunkin' Donuts. They say, oh, Stu came in here and told me that story already. I don't need to hear it again. Well, we're going to hear it again.
Just in case.
Yeah, I apologize.
Somebody's out there.
But like I mentioned, Stu, I just asked him what brought him here, and I was blown away by just such an awesome story and a little of his background. Stu, please take it away.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I always said it's going to be a Hallmark movie. I just need Brad Pitt to be a little bit older and beaten up so that he can play me. I don't know if that'll work, though. But anyway, I just want to say thanks for your patience. Anybody that knows, you probably heard me saying I was going to do a podcast to McShorty's probably a year ago at this point, and I was going to wear my Irish jacket and everything else. Well, it's the hottest day of June since, I think, 70 years.
103 out there today.
It's ridiculous. 103, I think it was 107 in the car, so I finally came in on the hottest day of the year. So, very happy to be here, and thank you. I appreciate it. My story, I love it. It's, like I said, something that could be out of a Hallmark movie.
This accent is real. Just
it
so
is,
you know.
yeah.
It goes all the time. He doesn't just do it so that everyone's impressed.
Eastern Cranston. And a funny story about that, like my mother always said, if you lose the accent, I won't answer the phone call. And if you know anything about the Irish guys and their moms, like I can't lose the accent.
Yes.
She was just here about 3 weeks ago. She actually loved coming in, and she bought next door. So yeah, it's just a great little spot. I love coming in here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you again for coming.
Yeah, I've been here for 18 years, which makes it even more ridiculous that I have this accent. And the way that it all started was I was supposed to be on Big Brother, which I don't know if you've ever heard of the TV show. It's like a CBS show. So long story short, I went for it, and I lied about my address. And I said I was from the UK, because you have to be from the UK. I'm from the Republic of Ireland, but I pretended I was from Northern Ireland. I had a friend who had an address up there, so I went for the auditions, and for some reason they liked me. So I got a call back, never thinking I'd get a call back. So the call back meant I had to go back up to Northern Ireland, and then eventually about a month later I got another phone call, and I was flown to London. Which was fantastic. And then they said, the only thing we need, we're down to the last 21 people, 14 are going in the house, we think you'd be awesome. The last thing we need is something to show that a proof of address. So it was then I came clean, and they basically said we have to talk to our lawyers, and about a week later I got a letter from Endemol, which is a company that runs all the Big Brothers, and it basically said because I was from the Republic I couldn't do it. So I was heartbroken, because my whole goal was to be on Big Brother, and then for people to like me. That would have been a tough part. And then to get on a TV show for local national TV in Ireland and travel the world and do a travel show. So I was going to be traveling with Stu. Never came to fruition. Push forward a month later. Yes, exactly. Thank you. A month later, we're sitting watching TV, and there was a commercial on TV. I'm sitting with my best friend Cormac, and it says that they need more volunteers for Special Olympics. So the World Games for Special Olympics, for the first time ever, was being held outside of the United States, and it was being held in the Republic of Ireland. So they needed volunteers in Dublin. I'm from Galway, which is the west coast. I'm a culture, which means I'm a country boy, and I hate Dublin. So it was hard for me to say yes to it. So my friend Cormac was like, you have to volunteer. And I said, why don't you volunteer? And he said he was too lazy, and I said, that's true. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take a week off work, and I'm going to go up and volunteer at Special Olympics. And that's where the story began. So back in 2003, I went up to Dublin, took a week off work, and there was two teams that had just played each other. It was the United States, and I believe it was Zambia. And the United States had this beautiful Reebok gear, all white, and I was like, look at these cocky Americans. They're singing and dancing. It's what we come used to, whatever. I've only been to America once, and I thought that's how all Americans were. And the team from Zambia looked exhausted, and their jerseys were like sponsored by a family in Ireland, and they couldn't afford it, whatever. So they go forward, and I go over, and I can't speak Afrikaans, and I said to the team from America, I said, how much did you win by? And it turns out they lost 9-0. And I said, why are you so happy? And they said, we're just so fortunate to be in Ireland, and this is like an awesome thing. So I said, oh my God, I got to hang out with this team. They lose 9-0, and they're singing and dancing like they just won the World Cup. I'm like, this is amazing. So I got to spend all I did was I literally took teams from the bus, brought them into the changing rooms. From the change rooms, I brought them out to where they were playing. There was like 10 different fields. And then I would drop them off, and then I'd go and pick up another crew and go around and go around. And the reason that I got this chance to see this team from America is because I was bonkers. So I don't know if everybody knows, but I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't take drugs, never have. And I was just born bonkers. My mother always said it. She's like, there was just something about you. And I think they were just so fed up with me in the changing rooms, they're like, go for a break. So I went for a break and I met this team from the US. So it all just seemed to fall into place. So as time went on, I was in a B&B on my own. It was like 5 people to a room. And I remember I had an Irish flag and I wrote down a little poem and I wanted to give it to the team just to say what an impact they had on my life in that space of a week. So I brought it over to them and then I told them for some strange reason, I said, you know what, in a year I'm traveling the world with 2 of my friends and our first stop is going to be at URI because they kept talking about URI, State Summer Games. I didn't know what the hell URI stand for.
Yep.
That was like a urinary tract infection, something else, who knows what it was. So I said, you know what, I'm going to come over with my 2 friends, we're going to start our world trip here, this will be awesome. They just kind of laughed at me because we had U2, we had Bon Jovi, Nelson Mandela, all these famous people that did the opening ceremony, and then we had Colin Farrell and a few other people to do the closing ceremony. And Amy said, I don't know if we'll even have the weathermen to open the ceremonies in URI. And I'm like, I don't care. This is such a cool thing. I said, I want to be involved. I want to do it again. So I kept in touch with the 2 coaches, Lisa and Amy, and I went back to work a week later, and the guys there did a whip around. I worked in the steel components factory. So we did a whip around and we got about $600. It was ridiculous. And they gave it to me for taking a week out of work. My boss thought I was a complete lunatic. He was like, why would you take a week out of work without pay? And I said, because I thought this would be a good thing to do. And it turned out to be it was. So I made medals for the team because they came 4th and they didn't get a medal. And they were so mad, the group of girls that were there. So I had medals with their names inscribed on it. And then for the 2 coaches, I got rugby jerseys with their names embroidered on it. And I sent it off to them. And I just kept in touch. And then it was coming up to a year and my 2 friends backed out of the world trip. And I said, well, I made this promise to this team from Rhode Island. So then I came over to Rhode Island and I went to the State Summer Games and it was this awesome time. And I was supposed to spend half my time with Amy and half my time with Lisa. Well, after about 4 or 5 days here, I realized, oh my God, I think I love this person, which I had never in my life felt before. I don't think I even dated leading up to that. I was pretty old. I was sensible, maybe. Too sensible. So then I was like, what the hell do I do now? So the 2 weeks passed, and in that time, I said, you know, there's something really here. Like, do I just make it a summer fling and leave it at that and return to Ireland and say that's how it goes? So I came back to Ireland and I walked in the door and my mom said, oh my God, you fell in love. And I said, how did you know that? She said, I can see it in your eyes. Now, if you know my mother, if if a feather fell out of the sky, she's like, oh my God, the angels are speaking to us. Now I'd be like, there's a dead bird somewhere flapping it down, right? You know, flapping the wing and the feather falls. So she just said, I can tell it in your eyes. I'm like, that is freaky. I'm like, yeah. I said, I did, and I'd never had that feeling before. So I was working with my dad at the time at this point, and because it was a year later, and I needed time to make sure I could just go to America. And he's like, just go back. And I said, what do you mean go back? He's like, you have the money, you're safe to travel the world. He's like, why don't you just go back? He's like, spend the summer out there and see how things go. So I said, all right. So I went out for the summer and I said,
Which year was this?
This is 2004.
Okay.
So it was a year later.
Yeah.
So I remember coming out and I said, you know what, I'll spend my time in New York because I didn't want Amy to think I was a complete freak, right? I think I love you, and I'm coming out to spend the summer with you. And she had just met me for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And she was living with another teacher that she still works with to this day. And I think her friend was like, is this guy for real? He's coming back out again? So I ended up, instead of spending my time in New York, I spent pretty much the entire summer with Amy, and I spent 3 days in New York. And at the end of the summer, it was just like, because Amy's very sensible. She's very straight-laced. She knows, like, you know, you teach. She works so that she has benefits. You know, she's thinking about pension at her young age at the time and whatever. So dating somebody who didn't have a college degree, and to be honest with you, I couldn't even drive. I didn't have a driver's license because I grew up in a small town in Ireland. I'm like, she's never going to say yes to this. But somehow, and for some reason, she's like, yeah, I think I kind of like you too. So I'm like, all right, I can make this work. So I'm still working with my dad, and then Thanksgiving comes, and I'm like, you know what? I'm coming over for Thanksgiving. So I come over for Thanksgiving. Meanwhile, I don't.
You don't have Thanksgiving.
No, we don't. No. I mean, we celebrate a lot of things about being the English, but we don't celebrate Thanksgiving.
No
4th of July. No St. Patrick's Day and St. Stephen's Day, the 2 biggest drinking days in Ireland. So I'd done a camp for kids with cancer in the 2 months while I was here for the summer with AIM. And so I came back Thanksgiving, and then at Christmas time, my 2 friends joined me. They were going traveling the world. So when they left me, they went on to California. They went out to, I don't know if they went to Fiji, but they went to New Zealand, Australia, Thailand, and Singapore in the year. And I decided that I was going back and over to Riverside. So my world trip was Riverside, Shannon, Riverside, Shannon, Riverside, Shannon. So Go ahead.
That's how popular Riverside is.
That's right. It is how popular. Honest to God, I love the place.
They all talk about it.
All talk about it. You wouldn't believe it. Everyone in Ireland thinks Rhode Island is Long Island. So to anybody watching,
That is
Rhode
the
Island,
truth.
it is 100%. I called the bank in Ireland at one point. They're like, "Now Long Island," you said, and I'm like, "Nope. There's an actual place. It's called Rhode Island." So now we go fast forward again, and I spend the next summer out here, and I'm here for 3 months. So I decided that I wanted to do an extension of stay because the Camp for Kids with Cancer was after the 90 days. So I filed for an extension of stay for an extra, 3 weeks. And when I filed for it, about 2 months had passed, and I was like, "Oh, I need to hear back." So I didn't hear anything back. I got on to a local senator, and he got on to the USCIS. They sent a letter, and they said, "Until a decision is rendered, you can stay in the country." Like, perfect. So we did the camp. I volunteered at the camp for Camp Hope, it was called, up in Northern Rhode Island. It was amazing. I mean, there was so many wonderful, wonderful kids who were in remission and hopefully going to push through and get to the other side. And unfortunately, even in the year that I was there, we lost a couple of kids to cancer, which was devastating. But again, it makes you realize how important life is and to make the most of it, which I thought I was doing at that point. So I go back to Ireland, and then about a week later, a letter comes in the mail and it says you can't file for an extension to stay in an I-90. But I'm like, all right, that's no big deal. They said until the decision was rendered, we're good to go. So now I'm coming back. It's my 8th time returning to the US, and I have an engagement ring in my back pocket. I'm going for it. This is it. I have it all planned out. The Amazing Race was our favorite show. I had all the envelopes done.
To stay here another way, you're going to marry your way.
Correct. Yeah, no, yeah.
This was the plan.
This is the plan.
Here's the plan.
How do I get to America? Now, I do want to say, just beforehand, I love Ireland. I would live there in a heartbeat, but there's 2 reasons that we're not there, and I'll tell you that as we go into the story. How long do I have?
You
I
have
think
as long
just
as you
4
need.
minutes left. So I'll rush this one through. So I get to the airport. I go up to Cornelius, awesome guy, Homeland Security officer, and people are like, "How can you remember his name?" I'm telling you, I've went through him 3 times. He was the most wonderful person. So here I am, I'm being honest. So I'm like, "You know what? I just want you to know I overstayed my welcome the last time. Here's my paperwork." I said, I want to be above board as I'm going over, blah, blah, blah. So he's like, "No problems." He's like, "I'm just going to send you into the head guy." So there's an office there with all US Homeland Security, which there has to be. And I go in, and as soon as I go in, he said, "You won't be flying today, and you won't be flying for the foreseeable future." So now I'm like, "What?" And he said, "Your ties to Ireland aren't strong enough, and you've been coming back and over too frequently." So now I'm like, "Oh my God, I have an engagement ring in my back pocket. I can't go to the US." And Amy's heading to the airport waiting for me on the other side, basically. Probably not at that point because we still have 5 hours to travel. So I'm in there for about an hour and a half, and everything is typed out. I still have the letter, the transcript from the officer, and the whole lot. So I walk out, and I remember, I was like, bawling my eyes out because I'm stuck. Because now what do? I can't go to the US, I can't, whatever. So my friend travels up to meet me at the airport. There's an Irish police officer there, and he's like, "Buddy, don't cry." He's like, "Don't let them see you crying. He'll think he won. He'll think he stopped you going to America." He's like, "But there's more to this story yet." And I was like, I wasn't believing him. I'm like, "This is done, we're over." So it's about, I can't even remember the time of the year. It's so funny, that part just blanked out completely. So I go to the embassy twice, and both times I'm denied access, so I can't go to the US. So Amy flies over on Thanksgiving night, and to this day, she still hasn't forgiven me for eating pizza in an airport on Thanksgiving night. So I still owe her turkey dinner, and she still won't accept it, because she's like, "Nope, you screwed me over." I think it was like a Sparrow pizza, which is, sorry, I don't mean to knock it, but yeah, I mean, you know, there's local ones here that are probably better. So she flies over, no idea that I'm going to propose to her. I've told a few people over here just to give them a heads up. While she's flying over, I call her parents, Walter and Peggy, and I ask for their hand in marriage. Before I ask, her dad goes, "I have something to say before you ask any questions." And he's like, "I just want you to know, in the US, the groom's family pays for weddings." So I'm like, "All right, I have no question to ask. We're all set." So I asked them, and they were so happy. And I remember Peggy going, "What took you so long?" I mean, we had only been dating for a year, and I wasn't even dating. I mean, she had a good gap where she didn't have to put up with me, which was great. You know what I mean? So she flies over.
That's why it worked.
Maybe it was. She always said we have to spend 4 seasons together, and we did, just short amount of time for each season. So she comes over, and then we have it all set up. My dad and my friends are going to invade the Asher Castle, which is this beautiful 5-star hotel, and they're going to break in and go onto the pier. So I'm driving in. This is probably about 3 days after Amy arrives. It is sprinkling rain, let's put it that way. Sprinkling, it's not pouring. And I'm up on the hill as we're coming in through the golf course down in, and I see fires up on the pier. So I'm like, what the hell did they do? So we drive in, and I pull up, and I said, all right, we have to get out of the car. We have to go through the woods to meet my friends Noel and Tanya in town. And she goes, I'm not getting out of the car. I'm not walking in this rain. I'm like, you have to get out of the car. I'm like, there's a reason for it. I said, you'll see when we get there. So eventually she gets out of the